What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. We have Aaron Rodgers contract details, at least a good portion of them. I know everyone has been super antsy about what this contract is going to look like. Yes, Aaron Rodgers announced a week ago that he was coming back to Green Bay, but everyone was a little bit up in arms and nervous about, was this going to get done, and how, what would it mean for the Packers salary cap? Is he going to be here for more than one season? And we got a great deal of those answers on Tuesday. So I'm going to break that all down. There are some things that we do not know, or at least I don't know, which I'm going to get to. I'm always going to be transparent with you, and I'll get to why that is in just a moment. But I think the biggest thing that I wanted to look for is what was his salary cap number going to be this upcoming season, which we found out was going to be a little over $28.5 million, which is right around what we were expecting. Again, you go back to the conversation Ken Ingles and I had and what Ken's kind of been running the numbers on. That was right around the minimum number that Green Bay could get it to, and they do go sort of all in on getting his number as pretty much as small as they possibly could with that number and saving as much money as they could on this year's salary cap, which is something that was going to be beneficial for both the Packers and Aaron Rodgers as they try to make another run at a Super Bowl. But more importantly to me was, what exactly is the structure of this deal from the standpoint of, are we going to have to go through this Aaron Rodgers drama year after year? Is there a true opt-out after the 2022 season where we could, again, go through all of this again, where he could ask to be traded and so on and so forth? And I think the biggest thing to glean from this contract is this very much is not a one and done contract in a variety of ways. One, based on this contract, you can basically take any trades out of the equation for the next 2, probably 3 years. If Aaron Rodgers is not a Packer in the next 2 or 3 years, it is due to retirement. It is not due to a trade of any sort. They could theoretically, probably after maybe next year, get away with like a post-June 1st trade. It would be very messy. And again, teams usually don't like doing those type of deals with quarterbacks especially. So there could be like a really rare, like 0.01% chance. I won't say it's a complete impossibility, but it's basically not going to happen. Again, at least over the course of the next 2 to 3 seasons, if Aaron Rodgers, again, is not on the team, it means he retired as a member of the Green Bay Packers. There's reasons to that, which again, I'll get to in just a moment. The other thing is that I would even go further in saying that based on this contract, it very much seems, and I mean very, very, very much seems, that Green Bay got at least a 2-year buy-in from Aaron Rodgers, if not a 3-year buy-in. Now, could things change at any given moment? Yes. Could Aaron Rodgers change his mind? He's already been close to retiring a couple times. So these things could change course in any given moment. But based on how the contract is set up and how the dead money looks, if he were to retire after this season, it really seems like Green Bay got some assurance that he is going to be on the team for at least 2 seasons. And again, if you read the contract, it really looks like a 3-year deal. It really looks like a 3-year deal. It wouldn't surprise me if he went 2 and then retired and then they had to do some maneuvering to sort of figure things out after that. But it reads like a 3-year deal that I think could ultimately be a 2-year deal as well. Now, one of the things I really wanted to go over with you is exactly what the salary cap would be if he retires after year 1, year 2, and year 3. Because I think those are all potential options. Although, again, like I said, I don't think year 1 is really an option anymore based on how the contract is structured. However, as I'm looking at the numbers, I'm recording this at about 10:30 p.m. on Tuesday, Spotrac, Over the Cap, and Ken Ingles, the 3 sort of salary cap experts / gurus, etc., all have different sort of dead money slotting for how this contract looks. This is an incredibly complex contract, and Over the Cap, Spotrac, and I believe Ken are all going off of based on different reports that have come in. In fact, I talked to Over the Cap. I talked to Brad Spielberger, who I think used to actually work with Over the Cap. I don't know if he still does. I think he works for Pro Football Focus now. But I talked to him, and even on even on Over the Cap's website, it says this is put together based on reports. They haven't confirmed, they haven't seen the contract in writing yet, which means that Over the Cap is assuming certain things. So I would love to tell you, I think this is more like either a 2-year, I don't know, $20 million-ish deal or a 3-year $150-ish million deal. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. But until we get those firm numbers, I don't want to put anything out there that could potentially be erroneous. So watch Ken Ingalls on Twitter. He's going to have some updates. And even he, as he was doing his update on Aaron Rodgers' contract on the end of the day on Tuesday, was saying until he sees the option bonuses and exactly how some of those are structured, it's really difficult to glean a couple of the different scenarios. So again, I don't want to go into too much information based on that, but it doesn't take any more information than we know right now to know that this very much looks like a 2 or 3 year deal. Years 4 and 5 are basically dummy years. Year 1 there's so much dead cap after year 1 that Rodgers would be just crippling Green Bay by retiring after year 1. So if I had to say what I gleaned from this contract up until this point, I think he either plays for 2 years and retires a Packer, plays for 3 years and retires a Packer. I think it's one of those two scenarios. I don't think he plays 1 year, and there is going to be some salary cap pain when he retires or when he's done being a Packer, etc., based on the length of this contract. So super complex, a lot of option years, salary cap stretching, some sort of voidish years. There's a lot going on here. As I mentioned, there will be some long-term pain. And it's not just Aaron Rodgers, right? They started to borrow from the future with David Bakhtiari and Kenny Clark and basically all of their long-term extensions that they've done. So Aaron Rodgers is a part of that complexity, but he's not the only one. Green Bay has started to borrow from the future on a variety of contracts, and that's why there is going to be some pain. And I know, and I was going to get to this a little bit later, but I know that people are already jumping to the conclusion of the salary cap is about to explode. And that is going to be true. It is going to go way up. So Green Bay is going to be able to navigate that in an entirely different way than they have in the past. And there is clearly and obviously a level of truth to that. However, as I've talked about before, and as Ken Ingalls came on and talked about this as well, even if it explodes, it doesn't just explode for Green Bay. It explodes for every other franchise. So if it goes up, heck, what, 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, whatever number you want to put it at, it goes up 300 million for the Jets and the Panthers and the Dolphins and the Bengals and every other team. And half of the league, at least, isn't going to be in crippling debt going into that. They're going to be in a reasonable number. And now they still have, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 million more to spend than what Green Bay has. So Green Bay, yes, can work, they can make a workable roster. It's not like they're going to have to, be relegated from the NFL because they can't get under the cap. There will be ways that they can clearly do that. That's not a major concern. However, they're just going to be behind the 8 ball and compared to a lot of other teams. Not all other teams. A lot of teams are doing the same thing as Green Bay is, but not all of them. And there's going to have to be a readjustment period from Green Bay. And part of Rodgers' contract is because of that. So again, I think this takes trades out of the equation. I think Rodgers is in Green Bay for 2 or 3 years and then ultimately retires, which is ultimately sort of the range he set originally, like age 40, age 41, wanted to retire a Packer. I think Rodgers sort of gets what he wants here. And again, there's a lot of complexity here. There's going to be a ton of dead cap whenever Rodgers is done being a Packer, but there are going to be ways for Green Bay to navigate that. And I like the overall structure of this deal for Green Bay. As I mentioned, this to me opens up a legitimate 2-year window for Green Bay. This is not just a 1 year all in. This looks like 2 years based off of Campbell's contract, based off of Rodgers, based on what I expect, Devontae Adams to look like, Preston Smith, etc. Jair Alexander, Stokes is still going to be on a cheap deal. Like, they're going to open up a legit 2-year window. And I will say, if we're going to talk poker references here, right, and say like the Packers are all in. Yes, it feels like they're all in. But it feels like Brian Gutekunst was playing with a little bit of house money in 2019 and 2020. Got really good hands, got some things that, really dealt his way, got some house money. They go to NFC championship games. They didn't maybe have their best, all-in situations quite yet, but they played really well. And then but they didn't get to the Super Bowl in either one, right? So 2021 comes along. Now all of a sudden these contracts are coming up, and Brian sort of goes back to the bank, right? Back to the ATM machine, pulls out more money and says, we're going to go all in 2021. I know I lost some money in 19 and 20, but I think if I can just get a little bit more money from the ATM machine, we're going to be able to put all our chips in. We're going to come out big and as the big winner here. And then 2021 comes and they lose in the divisional round and he loses all of his chips. And he had a decision to make at this point, which if anyone has ever been a degenerate gambler, you know very much this decision. Do you just go home and, maybe take a deep breath and maybe start over and, let those chips go? Or do you go back to the ATM one more time and say, all my chips are in the table. I've been getting dealt great hands all night. I like how this is going. I just think if I get one more big withdrawal from the ATM, not only can I win those chips back, but I can go all in and we're going to win everything. And it felt like in these moves this offseason that Brian Gutekunst not only went back to the ATM to pull out one more big deposit, he pulled out two more big deposits just ahead of time. And he's going back to that poker table and he's saying, we're going to win one of these massive hands either this year or next year, and we're going to end up with a Super Bowl trophy. That's what it feels like from Brian Gutekunst. It's not just an all-in. It's a little bit of a, we should have won these hands already. We didn't. We're going to pull more money out from the future. And this could end very badly, but we've still got active chips on the table and it could still work out and we could win everything. And that is certainly the goal right now for this 2-year window with Brian Gutekunst. Feel whatever you like about, either that reference or what Green Bay is doing financially, but I ultimately understand it. Now, I do know that a lot of people are asking, what happens if Aaron Rodgers retires? That clearly means that they don't owe him a bunch of money, right? That is wrong. A retirement is the same as a cut, is the same as a trade. You owe him all that money. This is guaranteed money. So if he retires, that's it. Green Bay still owes him the money. So there is no out on this. Whether they cut him, whether they trade him, whether he retires, they are going to owe him this guaranteed money. And the dead cap hits that are going to come at some point, which I would love to give you those exact numbers, but again, the numbers are a little bit all over the place due to the complexity of the contract right now. That money will hit. Again, whether he retires, whether he's cut, whether he's traded, it is all treated the same. So there is no easy out where if Rodgers retires, you get out of that contract and you don't have to pay. It's not that. They will have to pay that. There is no silver bullet here. They are going to pay him a ton of money after he is done playing in Green Bay, regardless if he plays 1, 2, or 3 years in Green Bay and then retires. Now, I got some fun people, of course, on Twitter, a couple mostly, but that clearly saw my video posted, it's time to trade Aaron Rodgers, and never actually watched said video. So just to be crystal clear here, one of the things you should probably know about me, I very rarely deal in absolutes. I will always give you what options are out there and what I think could happen and why both options are potentially good options, right? There are very few times where I'm going to say Green Bay has to trade Rodgers, and if they don't, they are screwed. That's Colin Cowherd, right? That's Skip Bayless. That's not Andy Herman. I am not going to be that guy because very rarely is it black or white. There are always shades of gray in almost everything, and I try the best that I can to show you both of those sides, say, here's what I would do, but here's why this other side could make sense as well. Now, my thoughts on this going in were that I thought Rodgers would be back with Green Bay. I didn't have a great level of certainty with that. But again, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions, the trade, the demand of a trade from Rodgers just didn't make sense after his sort of farewell tour, not farewell, but his tour to end the season where he just heaped praise on Green Bay, Gutekunst, Russ Ball, his teammates, the coaches, etc. There was no gripe. And if there is no gripe, it just didn't ever make sense that he would be like, I'm demanding a trade, see you guys later, especially after so many in the organization had his back in a variety of different ways. So that never added up. And retirement, I'm sure he probably did very much consider it, but it just didn't feel after that game against the 49ers with a team that has the opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl, with Green Bay giving him what he wanted offering what he wanted all along, to retire a Packer, to cement his legacy, to have another opportunity to go out and win a Super Bowl. He had everything. He had the money, he had the opportunity, he had the legacy, he had the teammates, the coaches, everything that he wanted. I just didn't see the retirement or the trade as an option. Could it have happened? I'm sure. And that's why I never ruled it out entirely, but it always felt to me this season like Rodgers would come back. There were times in 2020 I thought there would be legitimate chances where he could get traded, and I was not as sure that he would be back. He was last year. And then again, after learning from that season, it just always felt like he'd be back. Again, never had any great level of, certainty to that feel, but that's always how I felt it was trending. And that's obviously what I've said on numerous occasions. And then as far as my video goes of saying like, would Green Bay have traded him? Yes, that's ultimately probably the direction that I would have went in. But remember the huge caveat that I said to that. There had to have been the motherlode offer from another team as one big piece of that. And Rodgers would have had to have been accepting of that, right? There's still a chance that Green Bay says, hey, even if Denver didn't have it, let's say Washington had it, right? Washington's willing to offer 3 first-round picks and Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin and whatever else, right? There's a chance that you could go to Aaron Rodgers and say, hey, we got this motherlode deal from Washington. You can be a commander. And Rodgers like, I'm good. I'm going to retire, right? So that could have legitimately been a piece of it. But we also don't know that that motherlode offer was out there that, again, Rodgers would have went to. It always seemed like Denver. But as we found out, the deal that I would have been most interested in, 3 first-round picks, Jerry Jeudy, etc., that never materialized. Yes, for Russell Wilson, they got 2 first-round picks, a couple seconds, Noah Fant, Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, etc. But it wasn't quite the deal. The third first-round pick was super important from Denver for me when I talked about that deal, as was Jerry Jeudy. Yes, Noah Fant's nice, but he's not Jerry Jeudy. So it didn't really get to the level that I would have wanted it to really consider trading Aaron Rodgers. And more importantly, I wholeheartedly believe, as I mentioned before, that if the Broncos had the choice on that same deal between trading for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, I think based on age, a little bit more certainty, right? Like Rodgers might retire at any point. I just think Russell Wilson made more sense for Denver than Aaron Rodgers did. So there's no guarantee that deal was even on the table for Aaron Rodgers. So that takes a huge part of the yes, Green Bay should trade Rodgers. Well, if the deal wasn't there, I mean, you could almost take the entire thing out of the equation, right? But again, that's probably what I would have pursued. But if you go back and listen to that video, what did I say and what have I said all along? Give me an A or give me an F. Give me all in with Rodgers or give me a lot more all out with a rebuild built into it. And again, I would have leaned rebuild. I wouldn't have hated that deal from Denver if that's the direction that they went in. But if you want to go all in, and this is the direction that you want to go in, as again, I've said on numerous occasions, the best chance for Green Bay to win a Super Bowl over the next decade is going to be in 2022. I wholeheartedly believe that. No matter what Green Bay did, no matter how many first-round picks they got for Aaron Rodgers, in the next 10 years, their best chance to win a Super Bowl will be in 2022 with Aaron Rodgers. That's just to me the long and short of it. Yes, the NFC just got a little bit harder since then with Tom Brady back, maybe Deshaun Watson in the NFC. We'll see how things go. Even still, I believe Green Bay is a front runner to win in the NFC, and it's up to them to go play their best football at the right time. Have they done that? No. Can they do that? I believe so. Time will tell if it ends up working out. But under no situation did I say Green Bay needs to trade Aaron Rodgers, and if they don't, they are screwed. This is a completely feasible and reasonable and understandable direction for Green Bay to go in. Totally get it. Don't hate it at all. Respect that they want to go all in for probably 2 more seasons and see if they can win a championship. In the same scenario, again, if my job's on the line as actual general manager of the team, very probably would have made the same decision. So, yes, Aaron Rodgers could have maybe gone either way. If I was GM, maybe I would have traded him. Again, if the right possibility came along, that's probably the way that I would have leaned. Don't hate this at all. And like I said all along, if you go in one of the extremes, I love the decision. They went in one of the extremes by going all in this year. And I really like that decision. I have no problem with it. And as I've talked about as well, there's opportunity costs with both, right? If Rodgers doesn't come back and you trade Aaron Rodgers, no matter what happens, you're going to always second guess. Could you have had one more Super Bowl with Aaron? And could you have made that relationship work? Could Rodgers have retired a Packer? There's always going to be what ifs. And on the flip side, if Rodgers comes back, if he wins the Super Bowl, then you've answered your question, right? You made the right choice. If he doesn't, then you're going to have what ifs. What if we didn't go all in? And what if we would have traded for a young quarterback and went with Jordan Love, started that process earlier? Could we have found a better avenue to start competing for a Super Bowl again? There's opportunity costs at both. There's no perfect calculus. And I, again, totally understand the decision that Green Bay made. There are 3 things, however, that I do not understand at this point. 3 narratives, mostly about almost all about Aaron Rodgers in this scenario, that I just don't get at this point. I tweeted out two of them, but there's three in my opinion. One, that Aaron Rodgers only cares about himself, doesn't care about the Packers, and this is just about his legacy. And his legacy is a huge part of this, right? I don't think there's any question about that. But Aaron Rodgers, about 5 years ago, had already started talking about the fact that he could play into his 40s and that he wanted to retire a Green Bay Packer. And I think it's very important to make that distinction that this is different from Brett Favre, who every year was, I might retire, I might not retire, I might retire, I might not retire. And yes, Rodgers has had a little bit more of that drama as of late, just a little. But I really do believe that Green Bay sort of kicked that off. They were the one who changed the calculus originally with the selection of Jordan Love, probably a lack of communication, and not really understanding that this wasn't a Brett Favre situation, that Rodgers did say, I'm good to play into my 40s, guys, and I want to retire a Green Bay Packer. He was very clear about it. When Green Bay made the decision to draft Love and maybe go in at least leave the option open to go in a different direction, it was Green Bay that changed the calculus and not Aaron Rodgers. And to me, these last couple years were about Aaron Rodgers saying, either you need to change the calculus back or I'm out of here. And I don't fault Rodgers for that. Again, he was transparent up front, and especially when he had the backing of two back-to-back MVPs. Now, could we have a conversation about him needing to play better in the playoffs if he wants to back that up? You bet. We can absolutely. And do I think with his new contract that he needs to back it up in the playoffs? You bet. But to say that he just cares about himself and his legacy, he wanted to put this team first, and he wanted to retire a Green Bay Packer. And again, his legacy is certainly a part of that. But I say Green Bay changed the calculus first, and he did everything he could to change it back, gain more control of the situation. He did so mostly by playing at an MVP level, but frankly, by going the route that he did of potentially demanding a trade and doing some of those things. I think it took all that for Green Bay to realize, okay, we need to really take care of this relationship. Kudos to Green Bay for figuring that out, even if it was later than it should have been, course correcting and figuring out a way for Rodgers and the Packers to be on the same page moving forward. The other one that I think is a false narrative is that Aaron Rodgers is too greedy. He won back-to-back MVPs. He's arguably the best quarterback in the league, best player in the league, again, especially based on how he's played the last two seasons. He is going to get paid. And as I've said before, it is not Aaron Rodgers' job to figure out ways to be more cost-effective. Yes, I know Brady did some crazy stuff with his contract. That's Tom Brady. That is by far the exception to the rule. Everyone else is taking the best contract that they can, and that's what they should do. I will always be pro player in this situation. It is Russ Ball and Brian Gutekunst's job to put the best roster available based on the remaining funds that they have after making Aaron Rodgers the highest paid player in football. He has every right to get paid this amount. He has very clearly earned that, and that's the number that he should be at. And I don't think there's any debating that. That's not greed. That's knowing your value, getting the highest paid contract, and also setting up other players throughout the rest of football that this is the new standard for the MVP or back-to-back MVP, the highest paid player, etc. The NFL Players Association, other quarterbacks, they're counting on Rodgers to take as much as he can to continue to set the mark for other quarterbacks. Without doing that, it sort of sets everyone back and it gives more power to the team and the owner. So I know that's a complex conversation that I'm not going to spend a million minutes on here, but I just don't buy he's too greedy. He's earned every penny that he will get in this contract this upcoming season. Now on the flip side of that, he's taking a team-friendly deal or a cap-friendly deal, whatever way you want to look at it. That's just not true either. All right. As I said, he should get every penny that is available to him and never apologize for it. That's my complete take on it. But you also don't get then to spin it that you're doing doing a service to the Green Bay Packers. And I don't think this is totally what Rodgers did, but in no way, shape, or form can you or your agent say we did a huge favor to Green Bay by doing this deal. Like we have lower salary cap hits in this year and next year, so we can go out and win a Super Bowl. That is not anything that Rodgers or his agent did. Yes, to some extent, they need to agree to the structure of that, but this is a salary cap lever that Green Bay can pull. Rodgers took the highest paid quarterback and player deal, and Green Bay figured out a way to maneuver it so that the majority of that salary cap hit happens well down the line and not these next 2 seasons. And yes, Rodgers does need to agree to pieces of that, but there's no downside to him agreeing to that. He doesn't take less money up front. In fact, he takes more money up front. And it helps his chances of winning a Super Bowl much more by doing that. Rodgers didn't do anything in these 2 years, in my opinion, that was team friendly. The Packers did a lot of things that were salary cap friendly for these 2 seasons with a little assistance from Rodgers. But again, there was no downside from Rodgers to doing it. So those are the 3 things that I don't think you can spin as narratives. I don't think he only cares about himself. I don't think he's too greedy. I don't think he took a team friendly or salary cap friendly deal. I did post a poll to see, all right, what needs to be done for this entire Rodgers all-in scenario to be successful. 60% of people said the Packers need to win a Super Bowl in the next 2, however long Rodgers is back for in order to pay this off. And another 13% said they at least need to make a Super Bowl appearance. So 73% of fans that voted on this, which last I checked was over 5,000 people, said that Rodgers needs to get to or win a Super Bowl in order for this entire move to pay off. 25% said they're just happy he's back no matter what. And another 2% said they're just going to be unhappy no matter what, which seems about right? Probably Bear or Viking fans that are voting on it. But it just goes to show 73% of people think that you at least need to get to a Super Bowl. And 6 out of 10 people, 3 out of 5 think that they have to win a Super Bowl to pay this off. And I have seen a lot of people say, you know what, screw the future. Just win now. You have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. You have the opportunity to win. And listen, as I mentioned, I get that mentality. I really, really do. I understand the desire to go in that direction. But I have a hard time believing that the majority of those people, I'm not saying you, but the majority of those people who are saying, screw the future, just win now, baby, are going to be the same ones that in 4 years, when Green Bay doesn't have the salary cap space and is struggling to field a competitive team, aren't the ones that are immediately calling for everyone's head, and this person should be fired, and this person should be fired, and screw Brian Gutekunst, he screwed everything up. I just think it's going to be a double-edged sword. I think the same fans yelling, go all in and win the Super Bowl, are going to be the same ones yelling for everyone's head if this doesn't go the way that it could, with winning the Super Bowl. So that's where I just want people to understand, there is long-term risk to this, and there will be a rebuild period that they have to go through. Last thing I'll say in regards to that, and I totally get it, and a lot of smart people have said, listen, once Rodgers is gone, you're going to have to go through a rebuild anyway. If you don't have a bunch of salary cap space to max out the roster, that's okay. You're right. You're very, very right. And that's why Green Bay's doing this. So it's going to be a little miserable for a while after Rodgers is gone. It was probably going to be a little bit miserable for a while after Rodgers was gone anyway. It is what it is. You don't always get to go from Favre to Rodgers. Sometimes there's a gap. Maybe Green Bay will find another one. Maybe it'll be Jordan Love. Who knows? But even if it is, there's going to be a transition period from being able to compete for a Super Bowl until they have the opportunity to go back and do that again. All right, let's talk non-Aaron Rodgers stuff. Let's go a little bit lightning round here. Allen Lazard signed his second round tender, just under $4 million. Once that's signed and on the books, I expect there to be void years added to that to make the salary cap a little bit easier this upcoming season. But Allen Lazard doesn't obviously sign the tender yet, but he's given the second round tender. Would expect Lazard just to move forward with that and probably sign that. I don't think any team is signing Allen Lazard to a second year deal or a deal that would give Green Bay a second round pick. So that should get done sooner rather than later. Bill Huber reported that the interest from Green Bay in Rasul Douglas has tapered off a bit, mostly due to just financial constraints. Definitely disappointing. Would love to see Rasul back in Green Bay, but you can tell where their priorities were. It was with Devondre Campbell and keeping a lot of the guys that they already had on the roster. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem at this point like there's going to be enough money in the banana stand to keep Rasul Douglas. We shall see. This has ebbed and flowed a little bit over the last couple days. He is not signed with another team yet, at least as of recording this. So there is still opportunities. But as of right now, Rasul Douglas, as Bill Huber is reporting, the interest from Green Bay has tapered off a little bit. Rob Demovsky reports that there is, however, no change in the status for Mason Crosby, no contract update, and as of now, it seems like Mason Crosby will make it to training camp with the Green Bay Packers. We will keep an eye on that as well. Meanwhile, two former Packers signed deals with new teams, or at least reportedly signed new deals. I know they can't sign them quite yet. Oren Burks agreed to a contract with the San Francisco 49ers, 2 years, $5 million. Lucas Patrick signs a deal with the Chicago Bears. Thank you, Luke Getsy. Stealing guys already. I get it. Lucas Patrick was always one of the first guys out at practice, just a constant grinder, never had the elite athletic profile, but just found ways to get the job done. Great swing interior player. Didn't, always want him to be one of your top tier starters, but if he's your fifth offensive lineman or your swing guy on the interior, ton of value there. Chicago got a nice football player. Green Bay definitely lost one. I know he's not going to be the guy that wins you a Super Bowl, but you need Lucas Patrick on your roster. Chicago now has one. Green Bay does not. As far as work left to do per Ken Ingalls, Green Bay has about $8.3 million more that they need to clear before Wednesday afternoon. Part of that is if Devondre Campbell signs ahead of time, as I mentioned yesterday. I don't think that necessarily has to happen. Allen Lazard's contract, if that goes into effect, we'll see if that happens as well. And then, of course, the exclusive rights free agents as well. But we should expect more moves on Wednesday for Green Bay to get under the salary cap. And then last but not least, non-Packer related, sounds like Baker Mayfield could be out of his way in Cleveland. Cleveland flirting with Deshaun Watson. Baker seems upset. If I had to guess, as of right now, I'm saying Baker Mayfield ends up in Indianapolis, Jimmy Garoppolo ends up in Cleveland, and then I'm going to say Deshaun Watson ends up in New Orleans. And that doesn't leave too many other quarterbacks for the Carolina Panthers. Maybe it's just Sam Darnold back. I don't know. But the Panthers in that scenario, probably the ones that are left out in the cold. That is going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Always appreciate you. We'll probably have a ton to go over tomorrow as well, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.